Hi, I'm Laura. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I am here with my VR for day 17 of 31 Days of Witchcraft, hosted by Heather Carter. As always, I'll leave a link to more information about 31 Days of Witchcraft below, but you can, if you haven't already, click on the tag and find other folks who are participating and see their responses to today's prompt and to all the others throughout the month of May. So today's question is, do you always cast a circle when working magic? And my answer is going to be kind of a yes and no. So it is a yes in the sense that what I see as the purposes of casting a circle for me in the context of my practice are purposes that I always want to be fulfilled when I am doing any kind of magical work. The reason that I would say no, I don't always cast a circle is because I don't have one way of doing this that I do every single time. And I don't necessarily, for example, physically represent a circle around me at all times. So this is something that varies for me, and that I think the functions of casting a circle for me can be met in my work anyway. You know, all of these answers are about my own practice and not in any way prescriptive to other people. But these are kind of functions that can be satisfied for me in a number of different ways, some of which are much more kind of intensive and time consuming than others. And, you know, I have kind of personal, perhaps idiosyncratic reasons and ways for deciding, you know, how to approach this. So maybe the first thing to talk about there is what I think of casting a circle in terms of its function or its purpose, right? To me, casting a circle is about creating a kind of bound of energetic protection around a practitioner and the magical working that they're doing, or perhaps a group of practitioners in the magical work that they're doing. Protection from outside influence, right? It is a kind of energetic boundary in that way between the context of the magical working and everything else. And for me, an important part of that too is about intention and focus, and casting a circle and intending that boundary as a way of setting into kind of a magical state of mind, right? And really setting my focus on what I'm doing in that moment, and committing to kind of putting everything else, you know, out of mind for the time being, insofar as it's not relevant to what I'm doing. So that for me is what casting a circle does, that is important, right? And these are functions for me that are always important. Anytime I am doing any kind of magical working, I want to set myself into the frame of mind for that. I want to set my focus on that, and I do want a bit of that shielding and energetic boundary that I think casting a circle speaks to. But that doesn't necessarily mean, for me at least, that I have to do the same thing every time, right? So, you know, I don't want to get too much into kind of the mechanics or like how-tos of casting circles, because that's something that I think looks really different for different people and different traditions. And, you know, I'm certainly not here to say that there's right and wrong ways to do that. But thinking about my own practice, for example, I don't always physically walk a circle around the area in which I'm working. I might, but when I'm working in my home, for example, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, I have specific areas designated in my home that are spaces where these kind of workings happen, you know, all the time. I'm generally not just like setting up on my living room floor. I have specific spots that are on tables, for example. They all tend to be against walls. So I'm not walking around, you know, my main working table, because I would have to move it out into the center of the room, which is not a thing that I do. Similarly, you know, and for some of the same reasons, I'm not always placing something, for example, at direction points, like northeast, southwest points, to denote a circle, because, you know, my spaces are often against a wall, and that would be tricky to do. I may put something on each corner of a table that I'm working at to be representative of kind of energetic boundary in that way. But again, this is something that I don't do the same way every time. And one of the reasons I think, or not reasons, one of the factors I will say, the main one that determines how much or little or how involved this process is for me is about where I'm working. So if I'm working in a space that I have designated for working magic, that is only used for that, and is only used for that by me in my home, that's it, I do not feel nearly as much of a need to be spending, extensive amounts of time thinking about and intending boundaries around that space. And there's also, there's a certain way in which just sitting down at that space really gets me into that state of mind, that I don't need to do too much else for me to get there. I will clear the air with a sound, with a bell, usually, and I'll have some other things that I'll do, but I don't need to do quite so much in order to feel protected in my work and in order to feel focused on my work, if I'm just getting into that space that's very much intended for that. If I'm out in a public park or something like that, then there for me, I will spend more time because I'm in a physical space that is not always used for this purpose. It's not a space that is only used by me for this purpose. It's, used by any number of park goers for any number of purposes, dog walking, all kind of good things that people enjoy in parks. So when I'm in a space like that, where there's a lot of, things going on, I will take more time to, in a more dedicated way, intend and draw a boundary around myself and anything that I'm doing. Because I need it more, and for me, this is something that is something I'm doing for me, right, and for my work. So it depends very much, on what I'm doing and whether I would do what could be called casting a circle, whether I do something much smaller that for me serves the same function, how much of a need I feel to do that can really vary for me. So, I'm interested to see, of course, as always, what others have to say about this. This one feels pretty rambly and is longer than I anticipated it being. But hopefully I've kind of made sense. I never really know if I've made sense 100% to anyone but me. But hopefully what I've said makes sense. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow for day 18. Have a great day.